Horemheb, the general who restored Egypt's glory, a Treasures of History documentary investigation. Greetings, fellow time travelers. Welcome back to Treasures of History, where we uncover the hidden mysteries of lost civilizations and dive deep into the secrets that shaped our world. I'm your archaeological guide, ready to take you on another mind-bending journey through the corridors of time. Picture this incredible scene: Egypt weakened and divided, with forgotten temples, neglected gods, and a people torn apart after the tumultuous Amarna period. Imagine a kingdom that had witnessed Akhenaten's radical attempt to erase millennia-old traditions to impose the exclusive worship of Aten, the sun disk. The scars of that religious experiment still burned in collective memory, and the country desperately needed someone capable of restoring stability. That man was Horemheb, a general who would become Pharaoh and shoulder the monumental task of rebuilding Egypt after years of chaos. But here's the mystery that has baffled archaeologists for decades. How did a man with no royal blood manage to completely transform Egypt and lay the foundation for one of its most glorious dynasties? Before we unveil these incredible treasures of discovery, make sure to subscribe to Treasures of History and hit that notification bell. Trust me, you don't want to miss the shocking revelations we're about to uncover about this remarkable pharaoh who literally rewrote Egyptian history. The chaos before the storm. To understand Horemheb's extraordinary achievement, we must first journey back to one of ancient Egypt's most disruptive periods. The Amarna revolution was nothing short of a civilizational earthquake that shook the very foundations of Egyptian society. Akhenaten had moved the capital to Akhenaten and suppressed traditional cults to exalt only Aten, the solar disk. This radical transformation didn't just alter religious life, it destabilized politics, economics, and the very fabric of Egyptian culture. After Akhenaten's death, the throne passed through the hands of Tutankhamun and pharaohs who attempted to partially reverse the situation, but neither possessed the strength to consolidate lasting order. It was in this landscape of fragility that the figure of Horemheb emerged like a phoenix from the ashes of chaos. Rise of the unlikely pharaoh. Here's what will absolutely blow your mind. Horemheb wasn't born into the royal family. He was a military man whose career had led him to positions of tremendous importance, and his proximity to Tutankhamun placed him in the innermost circle of power. Leading historians like Nicholas Reeves and Aidan Dodson point out that Horemheb wielded enormous influence in state affairs even before becoming pharaoh. When he finally took the throne, probably around 1323 BC, Egypt was utterly exhausted. But Horemheb understood something that would make him legendary. To restore Egypt's greatness, he needed to act on multiple fronts simultaneously. He had to restore temples, reaffirm the authority of Amun's priesthood, reorganize the administration, and above all, erase every trace of the Amarna era. This wasn't just political change, it was a complete purification of Egypt's recent past. The master plan of restoration. Pay attention to this incredible strategy. Horemheb's first measure was the recovery of traditional cults. Temples that had been neglected or closed during Akhenaten's reign were rapidly restored. The priests of Amun in Thebes regained their prestige, and religious festivals returned to their former splendor. Horemheb knew that the people needed to feel that the gods had returned, that chaos was behind them, and that cosmic harmony, the sacred Maat, was being re-established. But his genius didn't stop there. He also implemented legal reforms to curb abuses by officials and guarantee greater justice throughout the kingdom. For many Egyptologists, this was absolutely crucial. Horemheb didn't just return the gods to the center of daily life, he also sought to provide social stability and restore the people's confidence. Now here's where Horemheb's story becomes truly fascinating. His rise to power wasn't simply a change of pharaoh. It represented a calculated strike of authority against everything that Amarna had symbolized. His strategy was crystal clear. He needed to consolidate his legitimacy as king, even though he didn't belong to royal bloodline. And for this, He employed a carefully calculated plan that combined religion, politics, and military power. Ancient texts mention that he became Great Commander of the Army, a title that made him the most powerful figure in Egyptian armed forces. With military backing, his ascension to the throne became inevitable. But here's the shocking part. To reinforce his authority, Horemheb resorted to something that would make modern historians gasp: the manipulation of memory itself. He ordered that the names of Amarna pharaohs, including Akhenaten and even Tutankhamun, be eliminated from many official records. In their place, he inserted his own name as if he had directly succeeded Amenhotep III, completely ignoring almost 2 decades of turbulence. This decision wasn't simple pride. It was a brilliant way to present himself as the legitimate continuator of the Golden Age that preceded Amarna. One of the clearest examples of this revolutionary policy is Horemheb's famous edict, inscribed in a grand text at Karnak. In it, the pharaoh presents himself as the restorer of order, the one who corrects injustices and returns balance to the country. This incredible document details measures against corruption and abuse of power by officials. Severe punishments were imposed on those who stole taxes, exploited peasants, or used their positions for personal benefit. This document is considered by Egyptologists as one of the first attempts at legal reform in Egyptian history. Beyond justice, Horemheb was deeply concerned with the army, his power base. He reorganized troops, fortified borders, and ensured that Egypt could defend itself against external threats, especially from the Hittites and rebellious peoples in Asia. Remember, during the Amarna era, foreign policy had seriously weakened, with the loss of territories and lack of control in Canaan and Syria. Horemheb understood that restoring temples wasn't enough. Egypt had to regain respect in the international arena. Religion became another pillar of his reign, and what he accomplished was nothing short of miraculous. The temples of Amun received donations, offerings, and monumental reconstructions. In Thebes, religious works came to new life, while in Memphis and other cities, the cult of traditional gods was revitalized. The people who had lived through the imposition of Aten's exclusive cult found in this restoration a return to normalcy. Horemheb presented himself as chosen by the gods to restore Ma'at, the divine order that governed existence. Modern historians like James K. Hofmeyr and Mark van der Meerup emphasize that Horemheb wasn't remembered for his architectural monumentality like Ramesses II, but for his incredible capacity to reorganize a country in ruins. But here's perhaps the most intriguing aspect of Horemheb's reign. Despite his strong rule, he left no direct heirs. His marriage to Mutnojmet, sister of Queen Nefertiti according to some theories, produced no known offspring. This absence of heirs could have led to internal disputes, but Horemheb, with strategic vision, chose Paramess as his successor. This man would later become Ramesses I, founder of the mighty 19th Dynasty. Think about this incredible irony. Horemheb's decision opened the path for Egypt's most famous pharaohs, like Seti I and Ramesses II. In a very real sense, every achievement of that dynasty carries Horemheb's fingerprints. Horemheb's policy of erasing Amarna pharaohs while simultaneously projecting himself as a restorer was brilliantly successful. For the people, Horemheb wasn't just a king. He was the living symbol that the gods had returned to look favorably upon Egypt. What's absolutely mind-blowing is how his plan to erase the Amarna pharaohs worked for centuries. Later generations remembered him as the direct successor to Amenhotep III, and only thanks to modern archaeological discoveries do we know the complete truth. This demonstrates the enormous power of whoever controls historical narrative. Horemheb didn't just govern Egypt, he governed his people's memory. To truly understand Horemheb's transcendence, we must observe how his reign marked a turning point in Egyptian politics. After the Amarna era, the country had lost not only religious stability but also credibility before its allies and foreign subjects. The Amarna letters, discovered centuries later, show how allied kingdoms pleaded for help from Egypt without receiving response. This leadership vacuum weakened Egyptian influence in Asia and put their commercial roots at risk. Horemheb didn't ignore this dire situation. As an experienced military man, he knew Egypt's strength depended as much on the spiritual power of its temples as on its ability to maintain its empire. Although detailed records of major military campaigns under his command don't exist, there is evidence that he reinforced garrisons, reorganized the chain of command, and severely punished those who committed treason or disobedience. The propaganda masterstroke. Most fascinating of all is how Horemheb used propaganda as a weapon of, truly unprecedented effectiveness. By erasing the names of Akhenaten, Tutankhamun and he presented himself as the legitimate pharaoh who had taken the throne directly after the great kings of the 18th dynasty. In temples and monuments, inscriptions show him as Egypt's savior, a king chosen by the gods to restore balance. This strategy ensured not only the people's obedience but also the confidence of priestly elites. The legal revolution. Horemheb's legal reforms were perhaps his most enduring legacy. The Karnak Edict mentions exemplary punishments against corrupt officials. For example, those who stole taxes or manipulated harvests could be whipped, stripped of their assets, or even executed. This emphasis on justice sought to restore the people's confidence in government, showing that the pharaoh stood with the oppressed and that divine justice was once again respected. He also introduced measures to control the economy. Resources that had been mismanaged during Amarna were redistributed. Temples received regular offerings, artisans returned to work on state projects, and peasants had some protection against abuses. The image of authority. Although Horemheb didn't come from royal blood, he understood like few pharaohs the importance of image. He knew that governing wasn't enough. He had to be seen as the legitimate restorer of divine order. That's why he commissioned statues showing him with the majesty proper to a traditional pharaoh. Often dressed as a victorious warrior with the blue crown of battle, symbol of authority and strength. In these sculptures, his military origin is reflected, but also his determination to present himself as an absolute king, blessed by the gods. What made Horemheb truly extraordinary was his vision of the future. Now, although he strove to erase traces of Amarna, he didn't try to perpetuate his own dynasty. Without direct offspring and instead of leaving the throne to weak relatives or risking the kingdom's stability, he carefully chose his successor. This gesture reveals something absolutely fascinating. Horemheb wasn't just thinking about his reign, but about Egypt's continuity as a civilization. His goal was to ensure that Amarna's chaos wouldn't repeat, that the country wouldn't again be divided by religious or political disputes. By placing Ramesses I on the throne, he ensured transition without conflicts and opened the path to one of Egypt's most glorious periods. The temples rebuilt under his mandate, especially those of Amun in Thebes, served as symbols of that renaissance. The people could once again participate in festivals, processions and offerings, activities that not only reinforced religion but also strengthened national identity. Egypt felt protected by the gods again and governed by a just leader. Most impressive of all is how his memory was absorbed by succeeding pharaohs. Ramesses I and Ramesses II continued his policy of strengthening traditional religion and expanding Egypt's power. This brings us to a profound reflection, fellow time travelers. What's more important in history, leaving gigantic monuments that challenge time, or creating the foundations for others to continue the work? Horemheb chose the second path. And thanks to that decision, Egypt enjoyed one of its most splendorous stages. His reign marked the end of a turbulent era and the beginning of a new age of splendor. The archaeological evidence, Modern Egyptologists point out that Horemheb wasn't remembered for his architectural monumentality, but, for his incredible capacity to reorganize a country in ruins. His statues typically show him with firm features, a general's gaze, and an authoritative posture, really reflecting his military origin and energetic character. However, there's a curious detail that continues to intrigue researchers. Despite his strong reign, Horemheb left no direct heirs, and this absence of descendants led him to designate Ramesses as successor, a decision that would prove to be one of the most consequential in Egyptian history. The final mystery, eh? And now, fellow explorers, we reach the most intriguing aspect of Horemheb's story. Recent archaeological analysis has revealed something that, challenges our understanding of his reign. Despite successfully erasing the Amarna pharaohs from official memory, traces of their influence can still be found in some of his policies and architectural choices. This suggests that while Horemheb publicly rejected everything about Amarna, he may have privately incorporated some of their administrative innovations into his restoration program. It's as if he took the best elements of that troubled period and integrated them into traditional Egyptian governance, a level of political sophistication that's only now being fully appreciated. Conclusion: the true treasure of Horemheb. As we reach the end of our archaeological journey through Horemheb's remarkable reign, we understand that his legacy was far more than a simple transition period. It was the closing of an open wound and the preparation for a new dawn in Egyptian history. After Amarna's chaos, Egypt needed a leader capable of rebuilding its faith, justice, and power. Horemheb fulfilled that mission so effectively that although time has erased many of his works, his influence lives on in history. His greatest victory wasn't measured in battles, but in the restoration of Ma'at, that cosmic balance that Egyptians considered essential. He returned gods to the center of life, restored temples to their splendor, and ensured that traditional religion once again became the kingdom's backbone. The fact that he left no biological heirs might seem like a weakness, but it actually became one of his wisest decisions. By naming Ramesses I as successor, he not only ensured power's continuity, but opened the door to a dynasty that would give Egypt some of its most legendary pharaohs. Today, when we study his reign, an inevitable question arises: what's more important for a leader, leaving colossal temples or guaranteeing that society rests on justice and stability? Horemheb's answer seems clear. His legacy isn't found in towering pyramids, but in the solid foundations he built for Egypt's future glory. He was the bridge between two worlds, the divided Egypt of Amarna and the unified, powerful Egypt of the 19th Dynasty. What do you think, fellow time travelers? Was Horemheb's decision to erase previous pharaohs' names justified as a way to ensure national unity? Or was it an injustice that robbed other rulers of their place in history? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to Treasures of History for more incredible archaeological adventures. And hit that notification bell so you never miss our latest discoveries from the ancient world. Until our next journey through time, keep exploring the treasures that connect us to our magnificent past. Next episode, Preview. The Lost Pharaoh Queens, powerful women who ruled ancient Egypt. Discover the incredible stories of female pharaohs whose reigns were deliberately hidden from history, and learn how recent archaeological discoveries